What's up, guys? My name is Josh. Welcome to Josh's Boxes. And today I am at my parents' house over Christmas break. And I've mostly been spending time with family, but man, it has been a long freaking time since I made a video. So today I wanted to show you guys what I've been up to in like the 2 months that I haven't posted anything. So, today we're going to be talking about a map that I made. So, I took an art class this semester, and for the final project, I decided to make a giant fantasy map. So, I will change the camera angle so that you can see it. Okay, so as you can see, this is what I made. It's super big, so it does not fit underneath the cardboard contraption. So I'm just going to have to hold it. So sorry, this is going to be a little shaky, but it's not going to be a super long video. So this is a map I made. As you can see, it's called the Bay of Seven Bays. And it's a fantasy map that I made with Sharpie for the borders, Micron pen for all the details, which I'll get into, and then very light charcoal for all the water. And overall, I really like it. I think it turned out really awesome. I'm super happy with it. It's definitely the best map I've ever made. And I'll talk about kind of what I learned from this process at the end. But right now, I just kind of want to show you the map. So it's called the Bay of Seven Bays because you can see the overall shape is kind of one big, I don't know if it's technically a bay or a lagoon or inlet or whatever the crap it is, but it's overall a divot in the land where water is. So it's a bay. If you want to be pedantic in the comments, I don't care. But it's the Bay of Seven Bays because it's one big bay with 7 smaller bays within it. So there's Treemouth Bay because it is right next to a forest. Sorry, a forest and a jungle, so it's all surrounded by trees. You got Waveless Bay because you've got this kind of archipelago that would block some of the bigger waves. You got Tempest Bay because there's probably lots of storms there. You've got Black Sword Bay because they do lots of mining and mercenary work here. You've got Bone Whale Bay because there's this giant whale skeleton in the bay. You've got the Barren Bay because it's right next to like a desert and like steppe and some swamp and prairie, so pretty barren. And then the last bay is the Safe Song Bay because I think that sounds cool. That's most of the reason for most of these names. So essentially, overall, what I did for the map is I just I used Donjon, the website Donjon, to randomly generate a map. And then I took loose inspiration from 2 or 3 randomly generated maps to make this map. And then I decided what kind of terrain I wanted in the different areas. And then I used Fantasy Name Generator to generate ideas for all the names. Some of them are directly from Fantasy Name Generator, and other ones are more inspired by Fantasy Name Generator. Like I combined a couple names or whatever. So, this was an art project. I wasn't really looking to like make a world that was fantastic and perfect, and it's definitely not like geographically perfect or whatever. I tried to do general forest on this side, desert on the other side of the mountains, but I wasn't super worried about realism or anything like that. I just wanted to make a fun map for my art project. And that's when it ended up happening. So I'll kind of zoom in on all the different spots so that you can see them and kind of talk about the techniques as I go. So like I said, with like this ocean beyond here is beyond the bay, and it, all the water was like a willow charcoal that I rubbed all over and then spread around with just a sheet of paper to make it really even. And I think it turned out really well. I'm really happy with the way that the water looks. And then you've got, a forest and some prairie, and I tried to make all of the different geographical features very unique. So you've got like forests that are big and puffy, prairies that are just these little lines, lakes, which are obviously water, swamps, which are these kind of like little plants with water running in between, I'm not sure how much I like that one. But then the mountains, I just did like jagged peaks, and I used hatching to shade half the side. Hills are just big bumps. For this desert, I just made it pretty sparse, you know, some little rock formations and cactuses and just like dirt lines, basically. Some more prairie, a big old forest, and then another swamp. This one's Sleeping Rock Swamp because it's got these big rock heads that are jutting out of the swamp. And then I've got some forest over here. This is the Quiet Wilds, and some more hills and more mountains with the same technique. And up here is another desert that I tried to do, the Woeful North. And I tried to make it more like a Sahara dune kind of style, but I don't really like the way it turned out, so I'm going to have to practice that one. I think overall that this desert looks better than the other one. And then finally down here is a jungle. I tried to make it kind of like spikier rather than smooth and bumpy, and I think it is fine. So that's the whole kind of map. Oh yeah, then there's this island. There's the One Hope Island, which is just kind of on its own, and with the cities, I just made like the rough silhouette of a house with a space for the door kind of thing, and that's what I did for all the cities. And I try to make this map a little bit more fantastical. So, you know, like I have the giant bone skeleton, or the bone whale skeleton on this island, the Habale Island. I don't remember the names of these. And, you know, like the Sleeping Rock Swamp, and, you know, this desert has a pyramid in it. So I just, you know, along with like the fantasy names, I wanted to make it a little bit more fantasy. You know, you've got like kind of creatures looking at you from the forest and stuff. So there's not like a whole lot of story to this world. You know, like I said, I mostly just made it for an art project, so it's mostly like visual. But since I have the world already made, I would love to run some D&D games in it. I think that would be tons of fun. Or, you know, some other system, just some role-playing games in it. Just because the world's already made. I already did, I feel like, the hard part of, you know, making the whole world. At least that seems like the hard part to me. And then making the adventures, you know, is a little bit easier. But there it is. There's the map. If I think of anything more, I will add more later. So that was the map. I'm really happy with it. I think visually it turned out really good. Definitely the best map I've ever made. Definitely not a perfect map. I still have a lot of areas I want to get better. The things I kind of learned, I guess, are it's pretty easy to come up with place names if you're not super worried about it. Fantasy name generator makes it so stinking easy. I found also that drawing things bigger makes it a lot easier too. Like the fact that these mountains were bigger than any other mountain I've ever drawn, I think made them a lot easier, and at least easier to make it look good, I guess. So I'm probably gonna try and draw my maps on bigger paper, or at least in a bigger scale going on in the future. I don't know how that's going to affect the raise map because I've already started it, but at least going on in the future, I definitely want to make my maps bigger paper. You know, I used fancy art paper for this. Maybe I'll keep doing that. I don't know. It's not super hard to get a hold of. Let's see. What else? Honestly, another thing that I learned was it was really fun to not worry about a ton of stuff. When I make my maps in the past, I'm super worried about like mountain location and like how exactly that affects the terrain, and like, oh, it would even be possible to have a river here and blah blah blah, whatever. And I think there's definitely a place for that. I think realism is definitely a fun thing to add to the map, but I feel like it often bogs down my process and makes me really worried rather than making it fun, and I end up just procrastinating doing a lot of things because I'm worried about the realism a lot. And I think that a made map is better than a hyper-realistic map, in my opinion. Maybe you disagree, but I think going on in the future, another thing I'd like to do is worry about it less, because this was an art project. It's not for a world I've already made. I was making it up on the spot, so I was not super worried about making everything super realistic and super, climate, like realistic climate regions and whatever, and making everything like, have good names and have a language behind the name and blah blah blah, all this stuff. It was fun to just, oh, I've got a jungle here, let me go on a fantasy name generator, oh, there's the name, and then I put it on. Or, oh, I don't really like that name, I'll take that name and this name and combine it, and boom, here's the name of the swamps or whatever. And overall, it was just a lot of fun. This was the only time I've ever enjoyed doing a final project for a class. So it was a big learning experience for me, and I'm really happy I did it. I'm really happy with the results, but I'm happy to continue to keep growing. You saw, I think the map's pretty good, but it's not perfect, so I'm excited to continue to better my map making abilities. But that's everything. Overall, hopefully a quicker video than normal, because I just wanted to show up the map. So thank you so much for watching. Till next time, ciao. I don't know if you can tell, but my brother's playing Terraria just in the living room outside, so you might be able to hear Terraria music, so epic. I can't wait to have that in the background of my video. Hopefully it doesn't get copyright claimed.